Hello everyone, my name is Hunter Hero and welcome to my Artmage DoomZ deck profile for April of 2026. I just took second at a regional here in Montana, so I actually feel very, very accomplished with myself. So this deck profile is going to be a little bit more in-depth than my normal ones, at least a little bit. And I'll be able to talk about stuff I learned and other things of the sort. We're going to be doing this deck profile on the mat that I won for taking a second. This is basically the last hurrah this deck gets until because Blazing Dominion basically makes it to where playing these two archetypes together doesn't really work. There's not really a reason to. Anytime you have the chance to play these archetypes together, you'd just be better off playing the power page and stuff. At least from my preemptive testing. So. But regardless, I did take second. We beat a couple of rogue matchups, but we did beat Lunalite. We did beat like Raizel Mitsu. Like that's still like a deck that's seeing success. Like this deck doesn't like flounder or anything like that. The only loss we really had was in our second matchup against Branded Dracotail, where we bricked, and we'll talk about that because it was a sighting decision that caused me to lose, not anything the deck itself was naturally doing outside of you brick sometimes. But if I sit here and ramble all day, I'm not going to get anything done. So to start this off, 3 copies of Medius the Pure. One of the first things that you're going to notice is that this card's a lot more important in this version of the deck. Because what he does is that he's your universal bridge, and after playing the canine variant of Artmage, I learned very quickly that being able to leverage how this card is normaled when it activates its effect is much stronger than I gave it credit for. So after learning that variant, I wanted to increase this to 3 just because he's a strong bridge. There's a lot of utility, and we're playing something else that kind of warrants the extra slots. For our Artmages, we are on 2 Power Patron, 1 Littera, 1 Finmel, and 2 Growflyer. So, very similar ratios to Distant Coder's version of Artmage. This is... there was a couple of times today where I missed having 2 of this, but that was because, like, a non-finito, and I think if I were to, like, play this without the power patrons in the next format, I'd play 2 of this just because non-finito gets a lot better. Outside of that, these cards are fantastic. They're powerful, they're searchable. Their grind game is very, very strong. And most people don't know what these do still. Which means that you still have somewhat of an element of surprise, which helps. It will still randomly win you games. But yeah, the only change I'd probably make is sometimes the second Finmel comes up. It didn't really affect a whole lot today, but I'd like to mention it. Alright, so instead of the Canine cards, we chose to play DoomZ, because I didn't want to bank my tournament results on Lupus getting negated all the time. In testing, we found out that Lupus loses to like everything. It was frustrating, so instead we went with something I'm a little bit more comfortable with, which was the DoomZ stuff. So we're playing 1 Power Patron, 2 copies of V5 Almith, 1 copy of Alara, and then 2 copies of Doom's 12-0 Drostea. So the biggest reason why these are the numbers you pick is because until the new support comes out and we get like Graflario and stuff, these are your 2 worst names in the deck because they facilitate a more locked version of your combo. In comparison to Almeth, who can just search Drostea, and then you use these as like utility spells mostly. For people who don't know what these cards do, the Power Patron can target a monster, equip itself to it as an equipped spell, and then you exceed summon using that monster you control. Just the monster into a Wind Machine Exceeds, whose rank is equal to the level of the monster. And then these all share the same effect to do that effect on themselves, as long as they're equipped with something. And then if he's popped, he searches on normal, special, or on destruction. He searches monsters. Alara sets spells and traps, and then Drostea pops a Doom's card you control, and then equips himself from the deck and summons himself all one effect. These played wonderfully. This card is stupid, because this is usually the only DoomZ card you're ending on an end board with, and people don't know that this one card is 2 points of interruption, which wins a bunch of games on its own. This card being 2 points of interruption is fantastic. This card getting into board states, it gets a lot better post Blazing Dominion, will matter a little bit more. Almith is just eats hand traps. Like, this card 8 hand traps, this card 8 hand traps. This card's harder to eat hand traps with, and then Drostea basically signified the end of the game. It was really funny. This card also outputs a lot of damage. So their ability to tag it to the Exceeds is a quick effect. So you can swing in with Drostea for 24 and then Exceed summon over it. Then pop something, give it an attack boost, and we'll cover that when we cover the Equip spell. Then swing in again, and then the big guy won't explode, which is something downside of the Equip spell, which we'll get to. But yeah, I was very happy I chose basically to play this instead of the Canine cards. One thing to note about these cards versus the Canine stuff, this stuff is more likely to lose you to Droll, and that was something that we accommodated for in testing, was that we gave up security into Droll for, my opinion, is a higher comfortability plus a better floor to ceiling ratio, where you're not bricked on cards that don't do anything without more copies of like him running around in your deck. For Monster Non-Engine, it's 3 Ash and 3 Fuelos. We still managed to squeeze in a bit of non-engine here. Other versions of this list weren't playing, like the Fuelos. Other versions were playing like Droll in the Ash slot. These all performed well and above. I hate this card even, and I still think that this slot's very important, just because you can't determine if you're going first all the time. So you can't justify cutting this. And then not main decking Droll was a better decision, because not only did this play to my outs, but it beat the rogue matchups. It gave me more of a fighting chance into like Branded Draco Tail, because it just interrupts a lot of their cards. There was a couple of times in testing where we wanted to play Ghost Bell. We never ended up doing that, and I think it was for the better, because again, there's only like 1 or 2 matchups it plays into, and it wouldn't have changed those matchups had I drawn those today, just in practice. So, moving on to the spells. The reason we're playing 3 Midius is that we are on 3 copies of Etherealize. This is just Foolish Burial for Midius, but it sends them as cost, and then you get to look at the top card of your opponent's deck, and then either put it back on top or put it on the bottom. So most people will telegraph if you saw something good off the top, if you send it to the bottom, but getting free information on what your opponent's on in game 1, if you went first, is huge. This thing also has the effect to change like attributes or something. It was how the Fiendsmith variant worked, but you don't really care. This thing just dumps Medius. This is the closest thing you get to an unfair card in like fair back row. Just because it dumps Medius' cost, meaning that it can't be ashed, even though Medius eats ghost spells, which will matter a lot more, especially with Killer Tune coming around the corner. But it's a risk you have to take. This card's still really good. No complaints. If I could play 3 more of this, I probably would. So some carryovers from Distant Coder's list is 3 copies of Varnish Alteration. This places the field spell. It rotas every Artmage card from your deck to your hand, and I'm glad that I listened and learned from what he saw success with for this card, because I used to play 1 to 2 of this card, and then 3 of another card that we'll get into in a minute. Field spell is really important. The battle trap didn't come up at all. Most games just didn't resort to that. The games that I was really losing, sort of stuff. There's not a whole lot you could say about it, but and then you have, this is probably one of the bigger questionable ones, only 2 of the field spell. So the normal summon of Medius, as I discussed, is very, very important, and being able to leverage 2 normal summons for it is strong. You get a privileged position because you can activate Medius or summon Medius with like a Power Patron or something, and then use its effect. There's some cheese that you can be done with like spare copies of Medius. This just baits interaction for you because it's not really once per turn. It's a good card. It's just that there were times that I missed having the third one, and there were times where this was the right number. Drawing this card in multiples, it doesn't really hurt all too much because you can just ditch them for each other, but it still feels bad to draw in spades because this thing's lock is probably the worst in your entire deck. And it's another reason why I didn't like the Canine variant so much is because of this thing's lock. So if I were to do this again, I think this is still probably the right number, or at least we'd board the third, and we'll cover why. This is when I was speaking of Varnish Alteration, this was the card I was playing in 3 of instead, because this card searches Medius and then protects your field spell. That didn't matter. This card came up twice. The search of Medius was kind of important, but like almost any time I had access to Medius, you just set this off a Groff layer anyway, and then you go into Medius for Owl for Diactrys, search the Rhoda, and then you just search the rest of your Artmage stuff from there. And then if you have the spend to or if you have leftover resources or whatever, you can just end up using the leftover material to make DoomZ cards. I used to play 3 of this and 1 to 2 of this, and I'm very glad that I learned from my mistakes. So yeah. And then 1 Masterwork Succession. I resolved this card once. Once all day. Dished it off the field spell once, didn't even activate its graveyard effect. This is how you grind. You shuffle back a bunch of your names, so that way you can search them later. It's a fusion spell for some cards we didn't end up making over the course of the day, but the one time I activated this, it didn't matter. But, like, this card is okay. I can't say anything better than that. It's just a quick play fusion spell with 1 upside that changes the math on 1 interaction. For the DoomZ back row, 3 change. This is very funny because this also can't be Ash. This also baits interaction for you, though. This just pops any DoomZ from hand, field, or deck, which, except for itself, which is stupid amounts of value. Just think pops the Power Patron, you can search any DoomZ card. This pops Alara, sets a back row if you need to like dig that way. Pops All Myth if you have like the continuous spell or whatever in your hand to search Drostea. This card's really good, and then if it's popped, which doesn't happen a whole lot, probably will happen a lot more in the coming set of Blazing Dominion. You grab back a guy and then it can special 1 from your hand, which is really good. That enables like some grind game and stuff. So 2 DoomZ Command Doomdirg. So this makes your the monster it's equipped to, if it's a DoomZ, effectively a towers. It can't be targeted by your opponent's cards, which matters a lot more, especially because this represents, on a Drostea, 2 points of interaction. And then this can pop any card and then give the monster it's equipped to attack equal to its level / rank times 100. And then it's destroyed at the end of the damage step. So you don't pop this unless you need to kill something off your own board. Like, I use this to pop a Garura to try to draw a card a couple of times over the course of today, so it was not useless in terms of that effect, but it's not well positioned, and the other equip that we're getting in the next set's a lot better, but you need 2. You play 1 per Drostea that you're on, so when I was boarding out of Drostea, I'd board out 1 of these just so we would draw less. The only DoomZ card next to the Power Page unlocks DoomZ Raiders. This is E-Telly. You pop a DoomZ from your hand or field, and then E-Telly 1 or add 1. And then when this thing is popped, it pops a monster. So you can use this as like this turns this into a board breaker. You can use this, pop this, and then pop a monster, which it seems very roundabout, but the fact that it thins your deck by a card so Finmail draws get statistically better is nice. But if you use the E-Telly effect, you are locked into Exceeds from the extra deck, which has a conflict. It's cards like this that teach you the value of how to juggle your locks, but I popped it once out of the deck, and then I used the E-Telly effect once because I opened Oops All DoomZ, which just happens sometimes. In the grand scheme of things, the lock doesn't truly matter, but it's notable that this is the other major, like, for the rest of the turn lock that you want to do. So if your hand is particularly profitable, you can go the Artmage fusion, since it's the only fusion you're going to make the entire turn, usually on your going first turn, then activate this, pop whatever, and then get your DoomZ stuff online. Then that's usually how you juggle the lock a lot of the time. And then your Garnet. You get to search this. It's the only reason it's in here. The reason I lost to Draco Tail was because I didn't know how to board for this card, because I thought this would be worth keeping, especially because I was going first into them, and it seems like a good justification to keep this in. You don't keep this in post game 1 other than against Striker. There's no other reason to keep it in here, because after game 1, this becomes the worst card in your deck. It is only pitchable off of the field spell if you draw it. It's miserable, and it doesn't equip to anything on its own, which means that the slot's better just used to be anything else after game 1. In game 1, if you're blind first, it protects you from blind second tools, and that's why it's in the main deck. You can't afford to board this card, because if you board it, there's no reason to board into it other than against Striker. Striker is not the most popular where I was at, so I just had to take the risk that this was better to play into blind going first scenarios, and then not worry about it. And then we learned after the Draco Tail game where I bricked on it to just board this every game after the first one. Like, yeah, I didn't play Striker all day, so. For spell-based non-engine, we're on 3 Super Poly and a Callby. Mostly the reason being is that we needed a card that could break boards, and because our extra deck is actually rather loose, so you can afford to play something like this. And then the Called by the Grave is for Fua, for Droll. I drew this a nauseating amount over the course of the tournament today. So Fua, Droll, Handswear, and Ash Blossom kind of cooks you. I made a misplay with this where I ditched it for the field spell instead of just choosing this to Called by the Grave. My Lunalight player's only monster grave while he had a Nyarla. So I made the mistake of throwing this away, trying to go for a win, and he ashed it, and then I just had nowhere to go because he drew Perfume off the top, and I lost. But you can't control stuff like that. It's out of your control. But the only on-theme trap we're playing is Pact Awakening. You want this in the graveyard. It bounces a guy of non-targeting pops, and then like its on-field effect summons a Medius or any Artmage out of your deck, and then it Branded Loss / Magical Meltdowns you for the rest of the turn, and it doesn't matter. That first effect is just bad. Like, you're never really in much of a scenario where that matters outside of like very bad Nerva plays, and the one time I had to activate this thing's on field effect, I just lost anyway because it wasn't enough. But yeah, the graveyard effect non-targeting targets one of your guys, bounces in, then non-targeting pops a card. That's the part that you care about. So it's a little bit better because of that. And then for the last card in the list, we are on 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. This is to increase your spell trap count, so that way the field spell always has something to ditch. It's not committal, and it doesn't trigger Izuna, so in the off chance that you were ending up in a mirror match, this card doesn't lose you, which is really nice. We are playing, I believe I counted 46 cards in the main, and it felt great. Again, only one game where I drew particularly bad, and sometimes it happens, but that was also because of a bad boarding decision, if that makes sense. Moving on to the extra deck for the Artmages, we are on 2 Artmage Diactorus, 1 Artmage Non-Finito, and 1 Nerva, the Power Patient Creation. So Diactorus is a standing negate, and he's usually what you want to make going first. Non-Finito is the Smash Glass in case of emergency card right now. After Poisoning Dominion, these 2 cards are swapping roles, where this card is a lot more prioritized than this one, in my opinion. The standing negate of this is strong, but this thing being able to search the counter trap is stupid, because the counter trap can be used the turn it was set for some reason. And then we made Nerva once. We made him once, so he gets to stay in the deck because of that. You can contact Fuse with like a Power Patron on the board or something like that, and he can and then you can contact Fuse the board, and then you trigger the Power Patron search anyway, and then it's like, oh, this thing's in defense, and it's like it doesn't matter. You can Diactorus, force it into attack. If you draw into a way to make this, it's good. Yeah, we made this twice, this once, and this like most of the day. This thing being a walking spell on your fusion spell your opponent's turn does freak some people out. But to the DoomZs, we're on 1 Break Diactorus, 2 Doom's 12 and Drastrius, and 1 Jupiter. Okay, so very funny, you don't make this. This gets a lot easier to do in Blazing Dominion when we have the next equip spell, and Griflario makes it a lot easier. This card is basically just used to out Liger Dancer. You can facilitate a board where this thing gets enough equips, and then you slap this thing, and then it's 6k, and then it just kills the Liger Dancer. It didn't come up, and I was struggling to try to find a board state to make this. This card is 2 points of interaction. It's a monster effect on field or graveyard negate, and then on summon, and when it negates something, you take and equip a monster to it as a spell. And that's free amounts of value, and then the first time it'd be killed by card effect each turn or battle, it's not, so you can just kind of protect the towers with it, and then as long as it has DoomZ under it, it can't be targeted, which makes this thing a lot harder to out. And then we made this a lot more than I thought we would. This thing, when it's destroyed, searches the Angelica's Ring, and then when it's Exceed summoned, you can pop a DoomZ card you control and a monster on the field. So you can use this going second as a board breaker. You can use this going first to search your equip spells, and then this is usually just the DoomZ guy you're ending on. And then you didn't make this, and a buddy of mine was beaming as we wrapped up the tournament to cut this. But there's nothing else to really play in the slot. Like, we'll talk about it. Like, there were cards that we were not making at all today that are better cuts than that. For super poly targets, we were on Secretarion, Mud Dragon, a Garura. I'm going to talk about who's kind of a super poly target afterwards. We didn't make Secretarion at all today. We made Garura once, and we didn't make Mud Dragon. There's not really enough dark decks in the format right now to warrant playing like Starving Venom or Triftovertum or anything like that. I could have made Secretarion more today if I'd drawn Super Poly, but it didn't matter. And there was one matchup where a different card got Super Poly'd into because my opponent psyched himself out, and I feel really, really bad. But another thing, this thing pairs well with the DoomZ cards because you could just blow it up and get the draw if you don't need it for the like 4k attack or whatever. Or 3k attack, so it's nice. One Alias Sylvia, you can make this in archetype because this is an illusion, and then the Artmage Power Patron is an illusion, and then Latera is a light spellcaster, so you can hard make it, and that's usually what you ended up doing with this. But I was playing against White Forest Elf Note, and he was bricked on just the White Forest stuff, basically, and we were playing a Nothing Burger game state. I had a Super Poly set, and he psyched himself out enough to where he summoned Elzad Azamina, and we just Super Poly'd into this. That's super niche, but we made it one other time after a Non-Finito got dropleted, and we made the this, and then the Latera we had in hand. And then it puts this thing to 24, which means that my opponent on Mitsu couldn't out it. Which was nice. Again, not super common or anything, but you can hard make this, which is really funny, and a lot of people will look at you a little differently after you make it the first time. And then we have the trio of cards we didn't make at all. We didn't make Guardian Chimera, we didn't make Typhon, we didn't make Zeus. Anytime you can make a Zeus, you would be just better off with the Drastria because it's a negate. We didn't have a scenario where the Typhon doubled as any form of removal that mattered. And we didn't really draw the fusion spells, so the Guardian Chimera didn't come up at all. But you just play them because there's roundabout circumstances where these come up. And it was better to have them as like a backup plan than not. So, but that's it for the main and extra deck. We're going to talk about sideboarding stuff and like some decisions we made there. So we'll talk about those in a minute. But we were boarding 3 evenly for board breaker purposes. 3 Perulia. This didn't get boarded in all that much. I think if KT becomes a little bit more popular, or some other like format stuff, or if like Artmage continues to see play, this card's going to stay in. But I think this is probably the most cuttable sideboard piece of the day. 1 Judgment, 2 Droll. We boarded Droll once and we didn't draw it, and the Judgment hasn't come up. But just to round out like extra deck, not extra deck, side deck count. 3 warning. This is for Lunalight. I did not realize how important this card was until we played against Lunalight and drew it. This card's great against Luna. You board this for Luna. That's the reason. They aren't going to tell you that. You board this for Lunalight. You just stop their board. They can't kill you. No need to worry about Liger Dancer. You just explode them into the sun. $2,000 is a small price to pay for not losing to that deck. So, and then we were boarding engine cards for the last 2 slots, and it didn't come up at all. And it was a DoomZ Destruction, a second Alara, and a second Power Patron. So the thought process was that if we were playing into a matchup that lost more to the DoomZ stuff, you swap out the Power Patron count, so you play 2 of this and 1 of the Owl, and then you find a slot for Alara, and then this is a mistake. So you use this to, you like make Drastrea, you make him, and then you equip this to him, and then your opponent can't search anymore. Didn't come up. We boarded it a couple of times, which the extra copies of Alara helped. I boarded this once, and we didn't draw it. It didn't help. And we boarded this twice, and it didn't draw it. There was a line that we could have used to search this that it wouldn't have ended on anything DoomZ related. So if we were to do this again, we'd probably just play like these, just because there's a non-zero chance of this coming up, and then like probably like the 3rd Alara or something, just to make it more consistent. Wasn't great. Wasn't bad. So in all, this was a very fun event. I'm very proud of myself for taking second with this. All my duels, except for I think the very first one, were some of the hardest fought that I've played, especially on something not so well represented. And a brew of my I'm saying it's of my own creation's a little egotistical, but a brew of my own choice was great. Like I walked into this event being like, if I'm going to lose, I want to lose on my terms, and I think that did me a lot of good, because it meant that each little like inch gained felt like so much more. So I gotta thank for this win all the members of my team. They helped me practice a lot, and they got me a lot better at this. I want to thank all of my opponents for being well-mannered, respectful, and giving me a great tournament run. And I appreciate everyone who got me here. And we'll see how the next year shapes out. Have a good night, guys.